Yes, we are back to discuss the Reagan administration. As we have already mentioned, that different Democratic and Republican regimes came in since the Second World War. There was not really a great deal of variance and difference in their approach towards security, towards peace in the international system, how to go about it, to continue main ideas and ideologies. Now we come to the Reagan administration. Reagan came to office in 1980, and the very first thing he said about the Soviet Union, and this is really significant, really important. He called the Soviet Union the evil empire. Can you imagine President of the United States of America to call the Soviet Union an evil empire? All right, then what does he really want? He continued to strengthen his conventional military capability and deterrence, despite the fact that the Russians and the Americans, or the Soviet Union and Americans, started and negotiated something called the strategic arms reduction talks. Yes, because the world has had too many weapons, strategic weapons, that they really didn't need. But we also realized that that the Soviet Union was really having a very difficult time maintaining this arms race between them and the Americans. They're having real difficult time in the Soviet Union providing the necessary funds to keep the Soviet Union together with the republics and to pay for a costly arms race. So comes in Ronald Reagan. He has found himself to be a man of influence throughout the international system, particularly in the Middle East. Excuse me. Reagan came also with a vision that he wanted to bring about a peaceful solution to the Arab-Israeli conflict, and he proposed the Reagan Peace Plan, which is a plan that is similar in its essence to other peaceful peace plans that have been submitted, and which in essence also, when we include the Arab peace plan, one could see that many of the uh, items, the proposals, the issues that are proposed, basically they are similar. And it talks about the idea of the Palestinian people to have the right to their own representatives, their own land on Palestinian soil, to address the issue of 1967 and its impact. So the Reagan Peace Initiative was made, but it was never followed up by the Reagan administration. Instead, the United States landed Marines in Lebanon in 1982. And those Marines that landed in Lebanon to maintain peace between the warring factions in the Lebanon were bombed, and some 300 individuals, 300 Marines, were lost in the Lebanon. About 300 and some Marines were killed in Beirut. That was a devastating attack upon the United States. It has left the Reagan administration wounded, and its commitment to support the peace plan was, I think, to a large extent, has been dampened, and its whole foreign policy approach was impacted negatively towards the Middle East with the killing of the 300 some Marines in the Lebanon. So, the Reagan administration was really important in terms of its relationship with the Soviet Union. Reagan was re-elected for a second term, so he came in office in 1980, and he stayed till 1988. Again, his main focus was upon deterrence. He also wanted to seek access to markets throughout the Middle East, unfettered access to the Middle East and throughout the world. His emphasis was on energy and resources. This is a true, capitalist approach towards the international system. My main concern are the markets, energy, resources coupled with deterrence and defense, the strengthening of military capability. During this decade of the 1980s, the United States has exerted so much influence. The Soviet influence around the international system was waning because of their domestic problems. We're getting to the point where the international system were moving away from a balance of power to a unipolar system where the United States, as one superpower, controlled events on the international arena, and it was the only superpower that was left influencing international events and what happens in international politics and relations with many of the developing states around the world. That was the case of the Reagan administration. We will stop here and then